All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating paradoxes you can find in ancient literature, the story of Esther. It's this incredible tale of courage and conspiracy, a real cornerstone of the Hebrew Bible. But it's got a secret, a massive, glaring omission that has had people scratching their heads for centuries.
So let's get right to it. The book of Esther never, not one single time, mentions the name of God. Now, for a sacred text, that is beyond strange. I mean, why would a story that's so central to faith be written this way? Well, that's the gig mystery we're going to try to solve today. You see, this puzzle isn't just about a missing word. It feels like a deliberate choice. It's almost like the author wants us to understand that even when God is silent, he isn't absent. His power isn't shown through some big, flashy announcement, but through how everything plays out. So, let's put on our detective hats and start looking for the clues. Okay, so where do we even begin our search? Well, our first major clue is probably the most powerful theme in the entire story, this idea of an unseen hand, kind of guiding everything from behind the curtain. You might have heard it called divine providence. So what exactly is providence? Well, it's the belief that God is working out his plan through things that, to us, look like totally normal, everyday life. It's not about lightning bolts from the sky. It's about the subtle ways that ordinary events, chance encounters, lucky breaks, a sudden change of mind, all line up perfectly to create an extraordinary result. Just think about this chain of events for a second. Any single one of these? Sure, you could call it a coincidence, but all of them happening in this exact order? The queen gets kicked out, creating an opening just in time for Esther. The king can't sleep on the one night it matters most, and the exact page about Mordecai's good deed gets read just as his mortal enemy walks in the door. It feels less like chaos and more like a perfectly designed domino rally. And what's so fascinating is that even the characters inside the story seem to feel it. When Mordecai says this to Esther, he's basically saying he has faith that help will come from somewhere. He calls it another place. He senses there is a higher power at work, a force that's going to save them, even if he can't put a name to it. But here's the thing, this divine plan, this providence, it wasn't on autopilot. It needed a human partner to actually step up and do something. And that brings us right to our second clue, a call to courage.
Now, this is so important. Providence doesn't mean people are just puppets on a string. It's more like the stage is set, the perfect opportunity is created, and then everything waits for one person to choose to step into the spotlight. The divine plan needed a human face, and in this story, that face belonged to Esther.
And this, right here, is the turning point for the whole story. You have to understand, approaching the king without being called for was a death sentence, period. Esther knew that. But with these words, she accepts her role. She makes a conscious choice to risk absolutely everything. This isn't fate pushing her along. This is a courageous, powerful, responsible decision to act. So you see the partnership here, right? The unseen hand of providence arranged all the pieces on the chessboard. But it was Esther's hand, guided by her own bravery and responsibility, that had to make the final winning move. All right, our third clue. This is where the evidence for hidden power gets really dramatic. It's what happens when the villain's evil plan doesn't just fail, it backfires in the most spectacular way you can imagine. This whole theme is about cosmic justice. It's the idea that there's a moral logic to the universe, and some hidden force is making sure things bend back towards what's right. In the story of Esther, the whole situation doesn't just get turned around, it gets flipped completely upside down. I mean, just look at this comparison. It's wild. Haman plots to hang Mordecai, but he ends up being executed on the very gallows he built. He plots to destroy an entire people, but instead they're saved and his own family is destroyed. He schemes for ultimate power, and the guy he despises most, Mordecai, gets it instead. This isn't just a failure, it's a perfect, poetic, and total reversal of everything he wanted. And this wasn't some new idea. This pattern of reversal is a huge theme in biblical wisdom. This quote from Proverbs basically shows that what happened in Esther is a powerful example of a timeless idea, that justice will eventually find a way, and that evil schemes have a nasty habit of trapping their own creators. Okay, so we've looked at providence, responsibility, and reversal. Now it's time for the final piece of the puzzle, the master key that really explains why the story was written this way in the first place. And it all comes down to the setting, faith in a foreign land.
To really get Esther, you have to get what exile felt like. The Jewish people were living in Persia, a foreign country, far away from their temple, far away from home. For them, God's presence wasn't this obvious, everyday thing. It probably felt distant, hidden, maybe even silent. Their whole reality was trying to figure out how to live faithfully without all the usual signs that God was with them.
And this is the stroke of absolute literary genius. The book is silent about God because it's trying to make the reader feel what the characters felt. You have to search for God's hand in the story, just like they had to search for it in their everyday lives. The style of the book perfectly matches its message. God might seem absent, but if you look closely at the evidence, you'll see he was there all along. So how did they show their faith without being able to talk about it openly? Through their actions. Think about it. Mordecai's loyalty to the king, the entire Jewish community fasting together, even though the one they're praying to is never named. And of course, Esther's unbelievably courageous actions. Their faith was proven by what they did.
So, there we have it. The mystery is solved. The author leaves God's name out of the story so that we are forced to look for his fingerprints on the events themselves. By removing the obvious label, the author makes us focus on the coincidences, the courage, and the reversals, letting us discover God's work for ourselves. So to recap, this hidden God is actually revealed through these key themes. He's seen in the providence behind all the coincidences. He's seen in the human responsibility of Esther's courage. He's seen in the absolute justice of that great reversal. And it's all a lesson in how to stay faithful, even when you feel like you're on your own.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. The story of Esther isn't just an ancient tale. It's really an invitation for us to see our own world a little differently. It asks us to look at the coincidences, the challenges, and all the unexpected turns in our own lives, and to wonder where might a hidden hand be at work there too.